This video is our road trip down to the Eden Project with a bunch of stops along the way.
We started our road trip by renting a car out of Gatwick. Here we are, probably just outside the M25, between London and Stonehenge. This was my first time driving independently in the UK, so it was quite exciting.
We'll go from Gatwick to Stonehenge in the first section. Once you get to Stonehenge, you have to take a little bus to the actual stones. You don't have to, you can walk it, but it's about 30 minutes.
This was sort of our first glimpse of it, and this is the closest point you can get to the actual stones.
I didn't realise how old they were, so they're 5,000 years old, which is 2,500 years older than the pyramids in Egypt, to put that into perspective. And no one really knows what they're for. The debate's still open around their original purpose, from like a burial monument to an astronomical computer used to predict eclipses of the moon and sun. No one is entirely sure.
And I know you can probably just look at this and think it's just a bunch of rocks in the middle of a field. But when you really think about how old they are, how they got there, how they perfectly align with sunrises and sunsets and eclipses and things, it's just crazy to me.
You used to be able to go right up to the stones, but there were too many people were taking little pieces off the stones.
These little houses are replicas of the houses that people lived in who built the Stonehenge. But I don't believe it was in this area. They found these a few miles away.
Back to the car where we had lunch and then drove down to Lulworth Cove.
And walked to Durdle. They're right next to each other. That was about an hour and a half from Stonehenge on the Jurassic Coast.
And all the roads down to Lulworth Cove look like this basically. Once you get closer to the little towns, like one lane traffic.
The town we drove through that's directly next to Lulworth Cove, it's like a little chocolate box village. All the houses have thatched roofs. It's just really cute.
Yeah, very traditional English countryside. This is us hiking to the viewpoint at Lulworth Cove. It felt a nicer day than what it looks like in this video. It looks quite grey, but it was nice and sunny for the time of year, April.
And actually, the water in the cove was bright blue. I think it just doesn't pick up quite how we saw it on the camera.
If you ever visit Lulworth Cove, you can get a speedboat to take you around the coast. Although I imagine it would be freezing. And now we're hiking to Durdle Door. Not sure what these little bunnies are, but
It was around Easter.
yeah. The walk was only about 2.5 miles, although it was very steep, so that's why we're panting.
Very picturesque, though. This is also the path that you can walk along the coast for the South Downs Way. That would take you right past Durdle Door.
And this is Durdle Door.
I think this is one of those locations that really lived up to the hype for me. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time to linger, but we'll definitely be back.
In the summer, people jump off the top of this.
We're about to start the next leg of our journey. Here we are heading down back towards Lulworth Cove to our rental car.
We picked up some chips from a fish and chip shop in the Cove and ate them in the car because, yeah, chips always taste better when you eat them at the seaside in the UK. And yeah, from here we drove down to the Eden Project where we stayed a night in a hotel.
The Eden Project has two main biomes. You've got the rainforest biome on the left and the Mediterranean one on the right.
And yeah, it was built inside an old China clay pit actually. And they dug it out. And yeah, they're meant to emulate the climates of those two locations. And the rainforest one is actually the largest indoor rainforest in the world, which is pretty cool.
And the grounds all around the biomes are just various gardens.
And it's just inflatable sort of plastic cells. It's not glass. It looks a bit like glass, but yeah, it's just plastic. It was nice and quiet when we visited because it wasn't like peak summer, so not everything had bloomed yet. But I imagine this place gets very busy in the peak of summer as well.
Oh, look, it's a raspberry bush. Blueberry bush. This was the soft fruit garden. They also had a little allotment. I think they were just growing all sorts of different things. Yeah, as Ian said, we were there in off season, so not everything was planted out yet.
Now we're in the rainforest though.
Despite me wearing a woolly jacket, it actually was quite warm in here.
Yeah, you forget that you're inside. It feels like you're out in a rainforest somewhere.
Yeah, it really does, because you can hear the birds and
Mhm.
things as well. We are now walking up to the viewing platform all the way at the top of the dome. As you can imagine, it was extra hot up here.
I think it
But
was like 27
yeah,
degrees Celsius, which is like 80 Fahrenheit.
but it was amazing views of the whole biome.
The rainforest one was much more impressive than the Mediterranean one because it's slightly bigger. The Med one felt nicer though from a temperature perspective. You couldn't spend long in this rainforest one because, especially if you were dressed for winter weather outside. You feel it shake.
And then we walked back through the cafe to the next biome, the Mediterranean.
This felt like a little Greek town or something. Feels like Spain or Greece.
Straight out of Mamma Mia.
Hmm. We just sat in here and basked in the sun for like half an hour because it felt nice and warm.
I loved the citrus trees in here. We got limes, lemons. Didn't see any oranges, but I'm sure they were there. And then another segment was a museum. I think this is meant to be like a giant pine cone.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of weird art installations. Not really sure what this thing is.
It was entertaining to watch, though. Puff out smoke. Back on the road again. It was a whirlwind road trip. Here we are actually seeing Stonehenge again, but from the road.
Yeah, driving home. And it's funny because there's no traffic lights here or anything, but there's always a tailback of traffic. It's because everyone slows down to get a glimpse of Stonehenge from the road.
I do think it was worth going in, though. It's not the same driving by.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's so iconic. Heading back to London.